Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer because today we're going to unravel a seriously fascinating modern mystery. We're looking at a small, everyday object made of fairly common materials that somehow manages to cost an absolute fortune. Yep, we're talking about luxury watches. If you've ever wondered why a tiny piece of metal on your wrist can command a price tag that literally defies all apparent logic, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to just picture a scenario for a second. You're walking into a high-end luxury watch boutique. The lighting is flawless, the floors are immaculate, and right in front of you, sitting quietly behind a pane of thick, spotless glass, is a watch. It's a stainless steel watch. No diamonds covering the bezel, no solid gold casing, it's just highly polished steel. But then you glance at the little placard sitting next to it and you see this number staring right back at you, $20,000. For a lot of folks, seeing that number triggers an immediate, massive mental roadblock.
And honestly, it begs a very rational question. How on earth can something smaller than your smartphone cost more than a brand new car? It creates this massive cognitive dissonance. Just think about what a car gives you. Thousands of pounds of engineered steel, a complex engine, advanced computer systems, safety features, actual transportation. But this watch, it's just some steel, a bunch of tiny little gears, a bracelet, and a small glass crystal. So how exactly does this math work out?
Well, the confusion really stems from a super naive assumption we all tend to make as consumers. We just assume that manufacturing costs dictate the retail price. Take a look at this comparison here. On the left side, we've got our $20,000 luxury watch. On the right, a $50 digital watch. And here is the kicker, guys. Both of them tell the exact same time. In fact, both of them will comfortably survive being caught in a rainstorm, and both fit perfectly on your wrist. If you assume that a $20,000 watch must cost nearly $20,000 in raw materials to make, you are completely missing the true mechanism at play here.
Section 1. Deconstructing the price tag. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that to actually understand this puzzle, we have to totally shift our mindset. We have to stop looking at watches purely as timekeepers and start looking at them as symbols. When you buy a luxury watch, it completely redefines what you are actually purchasing. You aren't just buying a metal object. You are buying these 5 specific pillars. First up is craftsmanship. You're paying for precision mechanical engineering and meticulous hand finishing by total experts. Second is brand heritage. You're buying into a story, sometimes backed by over 100 years of history. And hey, stories sell. Third is scarcity, which means limited production runs, exclusive waiting lists, and a really tightly controlled supply. Fourth is status. When people look at your wrist, they don't just see the watch, they see what that watch represents about your success. And finally, the 5th pillar is resale potential. Some of these watches hold their value remarkably well, and a select few even appreciate over time. So these 5 pillars actually replace the physical steel and glass as the true drivers of that massive price tag.
Let's expand on that a bit. What really separates an $80 watch from a $20,000 watch is this massive, completely invisible support system. When you pay that premium, your money is actually funding those perfectly lit exclusive boutiques we just talked about. It pays for the gorgeous luxury packaging. It funds massive global advertising campaigns and multi-million-dollar contracts for celebrity ambassadors. It ensures highly trained watchmakers are executing extremely strict quality control. Ultimately, you're paying for decades of painstakingly built reputation. All of this sprawling infrastructure is woven directly into that price.
Section 2. Following the money. If manufacturing materials aren't eating up that 20 grand, we really need to shift our focus and look at the sprawling economic ecosystem that a single watch purchase actually supports. Let's break down where the money really goes. Look closely at how many different slices there are here. You've got the retailer, the distributor, and the brand all taking their cut of the profit in slice 1. Slice 2, that goes straight to the advertising agencies and those high-profile celebrity ambassadors. Slice 3 covers the boutique staff and everyday retail operations. And look at slice 4 right there, manufacturing and suppliers. This is where the watchmaker, the supplier of the steel, and the manufacturer of the sapphire crystal actually get paid. It's just one tiny slice of a very large pie. Finally, slice 5 accounts for the logistics companies, packaging, shipping, and taxes. The raw manufacturing cost is just far, far lower than the retail price because luxury pricing isn't based solely on production costs. It's based on perceived value. And creating that perception requires paying literally everyone in this ecosystem. Section 3. The power of artificial scarcity.
Now we arrive at the real economic engine that makes these seemingly astronomical prices completely sustainable year after year. Most folks assume luxury brands become incredibly valuable simply because they sell expensive things.
But actually, that's completely backwards. Imagine Company A. They're a mass producer that makes 1 million watches every single year. The market is just flooded with their product. Now imagine Company B. They absolutely have the capability to make more, but they purposely choose to make only 100,000 watches every year. By keeping their supplies super low while global demand remains high, Company B effectively forces their prices upward. So the crucial point is, this all comes down to artificial scarcity. It's basically the practice of carefully limiting the supply of a product so that demand stays exceptionally high, which in turn makes prices rise. It is human psychology at its absolute core. The harder something is to get your hands on, the more people desperately want it. Luxury isn't just about high quality, it is fundamentally about exclusivity. If everyone can have it, well, it's just no longer a luxury. And this dynamic of scarcity is exactly what separates a $5,000 watch from a $100,000 watch. It isn't that the more expensive watch has 20 times the amount of steel stuffed inside it. No way. It comes down to scarcity, brand reputation, historical importance, and really intense collector demand. In fact, when certain models are abruptly discontinued by the manufacturer, their prices on the secondary market can instantly skyrocket. The physical product didn't change one bit. The gears are the exact same. The steel is the same. The only thing that changed was the availability. Section 4. The hidden costs. Up until now, we've just talked about the purchase price. But we need to pivot for a second and look at the often ignored financial realities of actually owning a luxury timepiece. Ownership comes with a whole list of ongoing expenses that most people just forget to factor in. You have to pay for insurance to protect your investment. You have routine servicing and highly specialized repairs, which, let me tell you, are not cheap. You might need secure storage or heavy-duty safe. But the most massive and frankly most fascinating hidden cost listed here is the opportunity cost. Think about it. If you drop $20,000 on a single watch, that is $20,000 that isn't being invested in the stock market, real estate, or a business. Depending on market returns over many years, that same money could have grown significantly. Buying luxury is not just about the money you spent today, it is about the money you chose not to invest for tomorrow. That is the true hidden cost. Section 5. Buying status, not time. Let's bring everything we've talked about together for one final paradigm shift, returning to our ultimate thesis about perceived value. Let's look at how the market views these assets over time. Take two buyers. We have Alex, who buys our $20,000 luxury watch. He keeps it for 5 years. Because the brand heavily utilizes artificial scarcity, demand remains strong, and his watch retains much of its value, or maybe it even appreciates. Now look at David. He buys a trendy $400 fashion watch. 5 years later, it has virtually zero resale value. Both watches flawlessly perform their job of telling the exact time for half a decade. And this brilliantly illustrates how the market values those two purchases entirely differently, all based on those invisible pillars of luxury. So let's put you right back in that quiet, brightly lit boutique. You're staring through the thick glass at that steel watch again. At first, it looked totally ridiculously overpriced. But now, that price tag actually makes complete logical sense. You aren't buying steel, you're buying exclusivity, history, scarcity, and status. You are buying into one of the most powerful, carefully orchestrated pricing strategies ever created in the modern business world. A luxury watch is never priced mainly for what it's made of. Which brings us to our final thought. The next time you see a luxury item with an eye-watering price tag, ask yourself, are you really paying for what the object is made of? Or are you paying for what it signals to everyone else? Understanding that difference will completely change how you view the world of luxury forever. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found this breakdown as fascinating as I did. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.